Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Rays Rewind with Bell, Bushman, and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm one of your hosts, the great old Bushman, and alongside me as usual is Drew. Make sure to go to our YouTube page and hit that subscribe and notification bell. Big day for Rays news all the way around. But yeah, well, I guess we'll get into the top story for today. The Rays swept the Royals today and moved to within a half a game out of the New York Yankees. It's a great day. I mean, the Rays played well. I think what stood out to me the most is kind of the bounce back starts that Taj Bradley had the other day, where he was rolling into almost a perfect game, and then also Shane Baz, who had a great performance today against the Royals. All the way around, the Rays looked like a team just knocking on the door of the New York Yankees, where we're only half a game out. Thoughts about today? Actually, thoughts about this past series against the Royals. Now, I know the Royals aren't really a top tier team, but I think it's with the Rays is, look, you got to take care of business against teams like that to gain more ground, which they've done, and just to showcase what you got. And I think with the way the Rays are playing too, man, it's really good that the national media is really starting to take hold of the Rays and take a look, because MLB Twitter handle and everything, even MLB Network, they're loving the Rays right now with the amount of tweets that they're putting out for the Rays. So I'm liking it. I think the Rays are still like a dark horse team. Everybody's kind of sleeping on them. I think they're the best team in baseball right now. Are we? It's almost the end of the month. We're halfway through the season. Today was the halfway mark.
It's crazy.
40, I know it is crazy.
It's already halfway.
46 and 35. I don't have my doubts anymore, Drew. I don't have my doubts.
It's a scary place to be.
I know, and that's why it scares me a little bit to say that. Like, I don't have my doubts anymore that they are legit. They are gonna be a legit team going into the second half of the season. I don't know. What about you?
So I have the same stance as you.
Yeah.
This week's series against the Rays was so boring, or against the Royals was so boring. It was such a boring 3-game series. Like, hardly anything happened.
Right. It was kind of like they took care of business. There wasn't really any kind of late inning heroics. I mean, they really just kind of straight out the gate came out firing on all cylinders, and then was just like, all right, that 3-game series is over, and now we head to Maryland to face the Baltimore Orioles. And
it just struck me yesterday specifically, because yesterday's game was even more boring with the last several innings. I mean, nothing happened, right? They had that one inning where they played small ball, somehow scored 3 runs, and they managed to hold on to that lead the entire game. Did it end up being 3-0, right? I think was the final.
So. Yeah, I think so.
Because Fairbanks came in for the save. And how many times this year and last year, you'd see these kind of sleepy games where nothing's really happening, and it was always the Rays on the end that the Royals were on today, this series, where it's, they're not getting much offense. They're, some bounces aren't going their way, and they fall 2 out of 3 or get swept. And for the Rays to go on the road and against a team that took 3 games against them, I guarantee you the Royals had been struggling at home. I think had lost 6 or 7 at home in a row, before this series. Probably, had the Rays coming in knowing they're playing good baseball, but hey, we took 3 games from them on their home field that, probably felt good about getting back on track against the Rays. And for the Rays to come in and play 3 relatively boring games, where it didn't require an 8-run comeback, or it didn't require, hey, we're scoring double-digit runs. It just was kind of like good baseball, methodical baseball, great pitching,
Yeah.
small ball when you needed it. You got, a couple home runs today with Brandon Lowen Jr., but
I'm
they
glad that
just
you
kind
brought
of
up the small
played
ball
great
thing too.
baseball.
I'm glad that you brought up the small ball thing too, because I think with Chandler Simpson being back in that lineup too,
Yeah.
you can be creative again, like you had him in there before, a few weeks ago when he was in the lineup, because now look, they're bunting. I mean, the Rays are bunting, playing. The small ball thing is I like, because the Rays are definitely known for being a small ball team, and when they're a small ball team, they're very good. Now, obviously, you're adding in power now from Brandon Lau and Junior Caminero. Yandy was 0 for 3 today, but I mean, he's been on a tear lately too. So you're adding in all these factors in the lineup now where it's completely dangerous from top to bottom. And what's great about it is too, I mean, I think reports came out later this afternoon. Hassan Kim wasn't in Durham, so he's probably on his way to join the team, which is a good sign too. So
Okay. I didn't see that.
yeah, I think he's gonna be plugged in. I think. Don't listen, everybody. I'm sure somebody's in tune more than I read somewhere that he was not in Durham today. And I think he's probably going to be headed towards Maryland for this weekend series against the U, which should be great. Now, but the thing with that is, what move are they going to what roster move they're going to have to make with him coming in. But I agree with you. I mean, this week, especially against the Royals, is look, take care of business, show them what you got. It was just an overall great effort by the team, because you're sweeping a sub 500 team, but you're looking good while doing it too. You're not like struggling against them like they have before against teams that aren't up to your level and everything. So.
It just felt like they were on cruise control.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like or autopilot, whatever you want to. I mean, they kind of came in, took care of business, and for them to play that way. Not saying it was. I mean, obviously they played great, but for them to come in and take care of business like that, and it's like not only did they win the series, they just swept them, and it really wasn't.
Were you a little miffed with Cash at him pulling Rasmussen after what I think 62 pitches? Everybody was up in arms on Twitter, like, "Oh my God, why is he pulling him after it?" But you got to remember, everybody, he's kind of on still like a semi pitch count still because of him coming back from the injury and everything.
To be honest, it was kind of a weird timing thing for me because I was watching the game last night, and it was just like right around kids' bedtimes and stuff. So I ended up having it paused for like a solid 25, 30 minutes, and then came back and was planning to watch, but then kind of got fast forwarding, through some of the innings. And so I didn't really, the context of Rasmussen getting pulled after, I wasn't surprised when I saw he got pulled after 5.
Yeah.
I just was like, okay, that's kind of what they've been doing. I didn't have any concept of like what his pitch count was. So I didn't.
Everybody was freaking out because, oh my God, is he hurt? What's going on? Yeah. It's like, guys, no. Well, his velocity was down for the last 3 pitches. Like, probably a little bit of fatigue. I mean,
yeah, it's hot. They also didn't have they didn't use their bullpen hardly at all against. I think in the first game, Taj going 6 2/3, and they probably, how Cash can be. I mean, it's on those days where they, and I get it. Like they're obviously wanting to keep his innings down. They had a rested bullpen for the most part. All the main guys were rested, and he saw an opportunity. Cash has done this time and time again. He's got a rested bullpen. He's much more aggressive with the bullpen, especially if they're in a winning situation where, hey, we can go and get a series win at that point. He's going to take his opportunity to do so. And hey, it worked out just fine. It didn't really strike me. I guess the pitch count, but he did the same thing with Littell the other day.
Yep.
And Littell's been more than capable. I mean, he obviously went a complete game, like 110 pitches or whatever it was. So, I think it's the weather, it's the time of year, it's just rested bullpens, all those other factors.
So you're saying Kevin Cash was being a smart manager? He was making smart moves?
Yeah, I mean, he really hasn't had any missteps, in my opinion, other than, you could get onto him for the pinching Morel for a Ronda move he did against the Orioles.
Yeah.
I think in that final game. But other than that, I mean, yeah, he's been flawless for the most, in my opinion. I mean, he's hit all the right buttons with the pitchers, and
to me, I think,
all the bunt calls. I mean, they had a whole article about, he's all the signals for, the small ball stuff. I mean, he's dishing that out, and it's been working. It's been working fantastic.
To me, I think he's now the front runner for AL and Manager of the Year.
They were talking about that
because you
on
beat
MLB
AJ
Network.
Hinch. You beat AJ Hinch, and AJ Hinch is right up there too with what he's doing with the Tigers. But we beat the Tigers.
I think the Tigers are like the runaway team in the AL. I know they have the best record right now.
Yeah, but look what division they play in, Drew. I mean, come on.
No, I understand that. I mean, I think if they are the runaway number one team in the AL record wise, I think you could have a case for AJ Hinch being the Manager of the Year, because it's been a process for them getting to this point, and I think a lot of people can respect that. Like they're progressing every year. And that's admirable. But MLB Network was talking about this exact topic yesterday, and they were all over Kevin Cash as like the clear favorite.
Dude, they love the Rays now, man. They love the Rays.
I mean, you think about all the outside issues that they've got to deal with as a team. So for them to not only be thriving like they are, but potentially contend for a division title. I shouldn't say potentially, actually contending for a division title and playing like the best team. I mean, they had been the best team in baseball for over a month now. He's just, I think, top to bottom, the clear favorite right now for Manager there, which would be really cool. So yeah, great series. I mean, they like I said, just the sleepiest 3-game sweep I've ever seen in my life. And to me, that's the mark of they aren't just playing hot baseball right now. Like they're just a good team that can come in and take care of business against the weaker opponents right now. And it's really been,
it's really helpful too. The New York Yankees haven't been playing good baseball, and now
timing is everything.
We're just knocking on the door right now. So I think this series against the O's is very important. The O's have been playing some pretty good baseball. Now you're going into an AL East opponent too, which, those can be tricky as well. Look, it's a great time to be a Rays fan. I know today it was all kind of monuments. I mean, Junior Caminero hit number 20 today, which is phenomenal. The Rays beating, sweeping the Royals, which is great, moving a half a game behind the New York Yankees. So I think besides that other news story that we'll probably get into later on in the show, I think today was a great day for the Rays. And I wanna get into something that was talked about yesterday. A lot of news sites came out with this, with the playoff stadium sites, where I guess Major League Baseball and the Rays have been in contact with the Rays about the possible moving of the Rays or going somewhere else for the playoffs, because they're, the Big Stein is not really equipped to have playoffs. But look, MLB's got to know this. Like, look, this is what we have. You can't move them really anywhere else. You're not going to go ship them off to Atlanta for playoffs. I mean, maybe people will go down to Miami for the ALCS, but I think the Big Stein is perfectly capable of handling the playoffs. Look, if the Rays can put together the Big Stein with all the banners and stuff that we have, I think Major League Baseball should maybe step in and go, look, we've got X amount of months left. We could put together a plan to make the Stein bigger to where we can maybe house more people in there. We can have media people in there too. So I don't know. I think it kind of does a disservice to the Rays, because the Rays have been kind of just a punching bag when it comes to, I don't think a lot of people get it outside of this area where, look, this is the hand we've been dealt. A hurricane came in and destroyed the Trop. Like, we've got no other options to do this. Anywhere else around here, they're all minor league stadiums. We've got no other options. And to suggest going 7 hours north to Atlanta or 3 hours south to Miami, I think is ludicrous. I think Major League Baseball needs to just, look, we're going to have it at Steinbrenner Field. That's that. We're going to make do with it, and we'll go from there. I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because I just think there's a lot of out-of-touch people when it comes to, handling the Rays and where they're at, especially when playing baseball this year.
Yeah. Sometimes I struggle with, because I always come back to, if Stu Sternberg hadn't, done the things he's done with the politics and everything, the Rays should just already have been in a new stadium, and this wouldn't be.
We should have been in a new stadium 10 years ago, Drew.
Yeah,
10 years ago.
It shouldn't be an issue. and I keep coming back to that. I know that it's just not the world we live in, so it's you just try not to dwell on it, but it's just frustrating that this, because at the end of the day, it's potentially the fans that get screwed with, not being able to watch their team play. And this is after, I know that they had the 2020, they have 2021 playoffs, and basically the last three trips to the playoffs have been one and done, or we're not getting out of the first round that we're in. And so the last real run that the Rays had was 2020, and their own fans couldn't see that. So for them to potentially have another run in the playoffs where their fans can't, like, to me, I hope, like you said, Major League Baseball just decides to force the issue and make it happen at Steinbrenner, because I think ultimately you owe it to the players. Like, they earned a home, if they make it to a certain round, or have a certain type of regular season finish, like, and they've earned the home field advantage. I think that it's only fair to the players to they maintain that home field advantage, and also to the fans, like, that it's just not fair. Like, I mean, that it sounds like complaining, but it just really wouldn't be fair. Now, they would obviously say as players, like, hey, it is what it is. Like, they're going to go out and play the game, and knowing the Rays and knowing Kevin Cash, they obviously seem to thrive in those situations. So there's part of me that, like, if they got forced to play somewhere else, it would probably just only stand to benefit them somehow, and it would probably guarantee a deeper run.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ken Rosenthal had a great article about this on The Athletic, and detailing a lot of the logistical, because it's not just like Major League Baseball not wanting to have the optics of it at the Steinbrenner, but there's all these logistical issues, and stuff you don't think about as a fan a lot of times, like in the League Championship Series and World Series, Major League Baseball sets aside like 7,500 tickets for umpires and families and sponsors and all these things. And, if they want to try and do that at Steinbrenner, that leaves 3,000, not even 3,000 tickets for actual paying fans. Like,
They can go down to Riverders and just watch the game there.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things that, like, okay, there are actual issues. Like, I don't want to downplay it. There are actual issues that Major League Baseball would need to figure out, and I get why it's a problematic situation. But I would hope that at the end of the day, they just
here's my issue. Look, they're just now, like, bringing this topic up where they could have been having some preemptive meetings, like, before the season started. Like, oh, the Rays are really good now. Maybe we should prepare for an obvious playoff run. It's like, well, maybe you guys should have prepared for that the beginning of the season, where Steinbrenner Field was the site that they're going to be playing the rest of the season. Isn't it? It shouldn't have mattered if they started off slow, and now they've turned it around. They're like headed to they're headed to make a playoff run. It's like Major League Baseball, like, you're always a step behind when it comes to making these types of decisions. Like, you should have had a plan in place, just to have a plan in place if in fact the Rays go to the playoffs and they're playing at Steinbrenner Field. Like, to me, coming out with this now, where you've had discussions in the middle of the season where we've got X amount of games left. It's like, to me, that's a little bit too late. You should have been, like, doing this at the beginning of the season. That way, if in fact it does happen, the plan's already in place, then you can make that plan fast, quick, and easy, where it's not like, okay, we've got to rush to make things happen. To me now you're fumbling the ball yet again. So it's like, just because they started slow and now they're good, now you're saying, okay, we got to contact the Rays and maybe discuss with them the logistical sites, or the possible sites we can maybe move them, or keep them at Steinbrenner. But, like, to me, that's just like, it's laziness on a Major League Baseball sport, where you should have been doing this at the beginning of the season instead of halfway through.
I saw somebody comment, if, like, people were saying, oh, how great it would be if the Rays hosted the Yankees in the playoffs at their own, stadium or whatever. And I saw somebody suggest that they should have the LCS in Boston if the Red Sox will make it. If it's like the Rays and Yankees, they should have it at Fenway Park or something like that. It's just tough. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know, like, okay, if they're going to have it at Steinbrenner, what are the solutions to these logistical issues? I'd like to think that, given that since the Rays don't play at Steinbrenner much in the second half, that if they were to make some additions to the stadium, then you got to run to, like, okay, well, who's paying for it? Because obviously any change of stadium, like that's the Yankees stadium. Are they going to pay for that? Like the Rays going to pay for it for a place that's not even their
No,
own stadium.
Stu's not gonna pay for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Although
I
look,
don't
it could be his final ride
swan
as
song.
where look, my team is gonna
I
maybe go to the World Series, and I'm gonna do what I
if
can to
they
make it happen. That way, my legacy isn't tainted as like a bad owner. So maybe I don't know.
if they aggressively buy at the deadline, I think that's our signal that the team's getting sold.
Oh yeah,
But I just don't know what solutions are to these logistical problems that are very real and like cannot be dismissed. And so that's why it's like, I don't know, it's just hard to think what they could do if it was at Steinbrenner. I would like to think that's where they end up, but I think it's more likely than not that if they got to the I mean, Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball doesn't seem like the kind of organization that's going to really think about the fans
no, because
in
they think
Tampa.
about dollars and cents. I know one of the
Yeah,
things
they
they were
would.
concerned about was the bonuses the players get if they
Yeah,
go to the
and
ALCS and then also
more
to the World Series.
people,
Yeah.
and it's just so I think it's more likely that it gets somewhere. Yeah, Atlanta or Miami seem to be the most logical options. If it's in Atlanta, I'm only a few hours away, so I could
I'll
try and
look.
make
It's
the
an
trip.
hour flight. It's an hour flight from where I'm at. Hour and a half. I'll fly up there.
Yeah, I would maybe if I don't know how they would even enforce this, but it's like somehow make some sort of incentive or like break for Rays fans to travel to the game.
I mean,
I
you
don't
could
know.
put
I
it.
don't
You
know how
could
to.
put it down to Miami.
Yeah, you
Miami.
could. I honestly, I think you get more fans in Atlanta though,
Yeah, maybe.
because you have a bigger reach and it's just a better area for people going to a game in general.
Yeah, the batteries
Like,
better.
and that's the thing. It's like, okay, you run the risk. Like, you have no guarantee that the stadiums are going to be full.
Right.
So now you run the risk of, okay, we're in a bigger stadium, but
You had the
now
risk
it's
of
not even.
losing money.
Yeah, it's not even full.
Yeah.
Especially like I would think that would be more of a risk in Miami. I mean that would look worse to me. So I just it does make me laugh though, thinking if they play at Steinbrenner and let's say like they make the World Series and they play the Dodgers, like Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and all those guys showing up to Steinbrenner to play. I mean, they're coming to Steinbrenner in a month or two, but it'd
I
just
was
be
gonna,
funny to see that in a playoff series.
I've said this before. I think that's the most Ray thing to have them go to the World Series.
Yeah,
And also too, like,
we
okay, so I think also to this year, we haven't really had any big storylines. And what better way to go into the playoffs to have this team have so many storylines? Look,
mhm.
Trop was destroyed by Hurricane Milton. The Wander Franco thing finally over. Team started off, you know, under 500, now turning it around. Like so many storylines are, and the possibility of new ownership. So the Rays itself have so many storylines, and that's what you want going into the playoffs is a team that has storylines. And look, I'm a superstitious person. It could happen, but with the Rays, with so many storylines they have, that's ratings, baby. That's something that
Mhm.
people want to hear and talk about, especially with a team, going to the playoff, making a playoff run. All right, we'll move on to Major League Baseball's popularity contest for the All-Star game, where the Rays were snubbed. Jonathan Aranda snubbed. Junior Caminero snubbed. Brendan Lau snubbed. Drew Rasmussen snubbed. Everybody from the Rays was snubbed, and I think the only person that has a chance to make it is Aranda as a reserve spot for the All-Star game. Once again, showing me that Major League Baseball needs to change the way they vote because it's just a popularity contest, and the bigger markets are going to get their big name players in. And when it comes to small market teams, or small markets are kind of shit out of luck when it comes to getting their players to the All-Star game. So yeah, the Rays were snubbed by the All-Star voting. I don't care. I hate the All-Star game anyways. It's boring. It sucks. The only thing I tune in for is the home run derby, and I hope Junior Caminero is invited to that. Hopefully. You know what? To be honest with you, I'm glad that none of them got voted in because now they can have a nice little rest and they can rest up
Well,
going into the second half of the season.
So you don't think any of them will? Oh, you mentioned Jonathan Ronda. He's definitely going to get in.
He'll get a
Well,
reserve.
okay.
He'll get a reserve spot, but I think I'm okay with them getting snubbed because just the way of a joke of a voting system it is, and I would rather have them rest up instead of playing in the All-Star game.
You did forget to mention Taylor Walls got snubbed.
Oh man, yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah. Now the voting is a joke. I mean, it is a popularity contest, and I hope that unfortunately, it skews towards the big market, so it won't be a big deal.
Yep.
I think that thankfully Jonathan Aranda's had such a great season compared to really, I mean, he's like one of the best hitters in the American League, like across any position.
Yep.
But compared to Vlad and Paul Goldschmidt, his season is so much better that there is at least acknowledgement that like he very clearly should be the starter. And now I just don't think that there'll be as much of an uproar about like the system and how it works for the voting and the starters because baseball wants to get it because then you just have to take it away from the fan entirely, or the fans can vote for finalists and then they have to cast a wider net, like you have to keep the top 3 or 4 or 5 at each position and then it's voted on by like players and coaches or something. I don't know, but
see, with me, I don't
it's
at this
for the
point.
starting positions because it's
Yeah,
always going to be. I mean, what was it, the Braves that one year they were really strong, they had like 7 guys, I mean,
yeah.
it's just
To me, at this point,
no.
like the All-Star games for any league now, like especially for the NFL and then also the NBA, like these types of All-Star games are jokes now. It's just they're unwatchable because they're so boring and nobody really is trying that hard. I mean, the only thing I like now, home run derby is great. I always watch the home run derby because it's always a great time to watch. Like for the NFL, when they have like the NFL has their like their skills things, those are cool to watch. The NBA is a joke.
Slam dunk.
Nah, slam dunk contest is a joke now too. But like,
They used to
but
be
when
better when there was like the
yeah, when the
actual
players
good
actually
players.
cared. But I think now with the games, like they're just kind of a joke now, where it's just unwatchable. So I'll take a World Series pennant than having our guys be All-Star. I'll
Do you
take
think
that.
if Junior wins the home run derby, you think they're going to put a banner up next to the wild card banners? You say like
Sure, why
home
not?
run derby champ. Well, so I will say it's just for the starters. So now the pitchers aren't considered at all in this portion. So it's possible Drew could still be an all star.
True.
I did hear in the span of actually just this morning, John Morosi
Hmm.
on MLB Network, he mentioned Drew as a pitcher in the AL that needs to be an all star. And then in the same hour, I heard Ken Rosenthal on his show mention Drew Rasmussen being the AL being an AL pitcher that should be an all star but won't be.
Mm.
So because there are, to his credit, I mean there are a lot of good pitchers in the AL this year that are, you would say, yeah, it should be an all star. It comes down to like Drew Rasmussen, for example. It stinks like the White Sox one all-star that they have to have is probably going to be their starting pitcher, Shane Smith.
Yep.
Right. Like, so that's one of the starting pitching spots. You think about like the Orioles, they're probably only going to have one all-star, and it's probably going to be Ryan O'Hearn, which bodes well for Brandon Lau potentially getting in as reserve because he's not as a finalist with the fan voting, but it's between Torres and Holiday. Well, Glaber's probably going to win the fan voting. And then Jackson Holiday, I mean, he's doing better this year, but he's by no means having a better season than Brandon Lau in any statistical category. So, like, I think there are situations. I mean, Jose Ramirez, he's just the all-star third baseman. I mean, it's just is what it is. He's having the best season. But I think it's possible Junior could get a reserve role. I think it just comes down to like the politics of like, okay, we got to get an all-star representative from this team. So it's going to be this person. And like, where does that spot take up on the roster? And,
Right.
There's still time for people to opt out. You see guys all the time, especially pitchers, like it's very possible Drew could not get in the initial round, but then they have a few pitchers that pitch that Sunday or whatever before the all-star game. And
I'd rather have him
they opt
look
out.
if he gets voted to
And no
it.
one remembers who oh, he was only an all-star because so-and-so opted out. Like, no
Right.
one remembers that. Everybody just remembers that you're an all-star. Like, that's how Andrew Kittredge got to be an all-star that 1 year, and no one it's like, it doesn't go against him. Like, I mean, he was an all-star. So I just want to see the guys in the game. Like,
Yeah.
if
I'd rather see Junior
I
go in the home run derby and represent that way.
I'd like to think that the politics of Major League Baseball could work in his favor in that I think he's definitely a player they would want in the home run derby that they would be pushing for.
Mhm.
He's
Especially
a
with all the
young,
media attention that he's been getting the past
yeah, and
month
he's
and a half or so.
young star, and so like if he's going to be in the home run derby, I would hope that somehow, behind the scenes, maybe they can pull some strings to get him in the game as well. Because my interest around the Ulster game itself really is tied to the players. I mean, I don't think I watched that all last year because Isak to me was just, he was not somebody I was ever really dying to watch play. Even when he was on the Rays, I didn't, he was not on my top list of favorite Rays players anyway. But this year, I mean, I would love to see Brandon Lau and Junior and Jonathan play. So I hope that they all can get in. They definitely deserve to be there. But yeah, Junior in the home run derby that's like
That's what I want to see.
him in the home run derby and Jonathan in the All-Star game are the two things that should definitely happen. If either of those don't, I will be very, very disappointed.
All right, we'll close out the show today with the other big story was Wander Franco was found guilty for the charges of doing things with a minor. I think with what I saw on X and everything, I think a lot of people were just kind of relieved it's over now to where we can kind of move on as a fan base. And also, I think the Rays can move on as a team with now this is being done and over with. For a little bit there, Drew, I after reading the tweets that were coming back from the reporter that was there, his name was Juan. It looked like it was almost like he was gonna get found not guilty because the judges in the DR were kind of blaming the prosecution for kind of fumbling everything and then blaming more on the mother of the victim that was put in on that was the Wonder was accused of being with. But then, coming down with a guilty verdict for him, it was a 5-year 5-year sentence, 2 years suspended. But that puts pretty much his career in the Major League Baseball in the States pretty much done over with. But I think we can all kind of just now move on. And I put something out there on X going, look, it's closure for everybody because just the way this kid came out, so much promise, being like the face of the franchise for just a glimmer, and then kind of throwing it all away for this. And now, but I think for the fan base now we can move on. We have a new face of the franchise in Junior Caminero, and we can move on from this. And what's great about it too is I think the Rays had a lot of bad juju on their back for a little bit after this thing went down, and now it's kind of things are brighter now for the Tampa Bay Rays and their fan base because now this is kind of like a chapter that's been closed and the Rays can kind of move on from this. What's sad about it is it's all the parties in general that were involved in this. And I think also too, it's, a wasted talent. This guy had so much talent and to be a superstar in the league and then just kind of throw it away like that. It's a sad all the way around once you look at it too. And I think the saddest part is for the young girl that was involved within this too as well because of what her mother was doing on behind the scenes too, and then what Wander was doing as well. So sad situation, but now I think we can all move on, and it's looking bright for the Rays going forward without Wander being on the team. So
yeah, I agree with everything you said. The first I kind of thought, I thought kind of what you were saying at first.
man,
I was saying,
listen, it was a lot of we're everybody. I'm in a group chat on X, and we were kind of everybody was going back and forth, and I was kind of relaying a lot of the message in that chat, going, "It's looking like he might get off," because just the way it was being interpreted in English was the judge was kind of like really bashing the prosecution for the way they had their case. Like you're not, they were saying like they had a lot of evidence that they didn't bring in. Why would the mother wait 5 months to put this to light? Like it was like, man, they're putting this more on the mom, and he might get off, and everybody's like, oh, free Wander, but all of a sudden, it started to get more and more like, okay, it's coming down to a guilty verdict, which I think a lot of people were just like, done, man, we're good.
Yeah, I'm glad there's at least progress in terms of we have a verdict now. It's not
Yeah.
a question of what the verdict is going to be. I was telling my wife earlier, the first emotion I felt was actually, it was kind of all that. And I'm not like feeling, I wasn't like overly emotional about it, but just kind of the sadness that I felt initially when things started coming out,
Yeah.
and like the initial shock. I just, I was sad because from a fan's perspective, and of course, like everything you said about the people involved and the girl, and it's awful. It's really awful. The mother is, I mean, just evil stuff. Like, I mean, just awful things. But just from the fans' perspective, I, was at Wander's debut. He was as excited. I was as excited for him as any player I've ever watched. Um, and my son was, 5 years old, going on 5 years old, and really just starting to kind of get into watching Rays baseball with me.
Yep.
And he loved Wander. Like he was attached to him. I mean, I of course was talking on and on about him, and we got him a Wander shirt for his first game to go to the Rays, to go see the Rays. It was a doubleheader, by the way, at Tropicana Field, I might add, against the Guardians, and like Wander was going to be the guy that, like, my son and I would grow up. He would grow up watching, and we would just that would be like the bonding thing for us, was watching Rays baseball and watching like this player play for a team that we love, that was going to be on the team for a decade plus probably. And I understand like the whole financial thing. Will he have been there the whole contract? I don't care. I just assume he would have been for the purposes. And so for that to like not happen, like just to have everything happen the way it did, and like it just is sad to not have that opportunity, to have that taken away as a fan, because there was so much promise. Like he was just going to be
Yeah.
such a stud,
Wait,
and he was going to be that guy.
Just wasted talent,
And,
man. Just
and
wasted.
like, I mean, my kid, he had a poster of him in his room. So I take that down. Like I have, I got a Wander Franco jersey, the only jersey I ever bought. Like obviously, like it's not a big deal. But it's just, as a fan, it's just sad. Like it's just sad to have to live in that world where the alternative could have been so much better and just so much more enjoyable. Like it just would have been so cool to watch him grow up, and to watch him, just hopefully take this team on, be a contender for years, and to like hypothetically put him. Obviously, the team would probably look a little different had he never gotten in legal issues. But to like hypothetically just put him on this team, like from a baseball perspective, like that would be incredible. And so and again, like it just goes to show, like Eric Neander, Kevin Cash, for them not to have really any sizable drop off where your main guy that you've built
And
everything around for the next decade, essentially that
invested
Springer plan,
invested a ton of money
invested,
into.
gets taken away, like, and just pulled out like that, and never will likely never come back. For them to not really have any sort of drop off competitively. I know last year wasn't great, but they were still competitive. They were still in it. Really is just the most impressive thing about this entire situation. And honestly, it doesn't get talked about enough. And I realize a lot of people like nationally have stayed away from it because of the subject matter. There's not really been any clear, maybe more people will talk about it now a little bit because of there being a verdict.
Yeah.
But like the fact that this team is as good as it is and had no considerable drop off, and now seem to be thriving with everything else going on, and on top of it, the hurricane and everything, it's incredible. But yeah, it's just sad. And then, yeah, you just kind of all those feelings of like anger, sadness, and now I'm just kind of relieved. Like I'm ready.
We're
I'm
all
ready just
ready
to
to
move
move on.
on.
Yeah,
And
move on and see the team of the future. And I think I say
yeah,
this last thing too is I'm looking straight at you, Tampa Bay Rays. Make it right. Have a jersey exchange for the people that bought Wander Franco merchandise. Like Make it right. Do the right thing.
I would love to send my jersey in and get a Chandler Simpson jersey or
a Junior Caminero. There you go.
Yeah,
Make it right.
I've got a pristine throwback black Rays jersey that I unfortunately can't wear anymore.
I bet I make it right, Tampa. Make it right. Do the right thing.
Yep.
So, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining in for another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. Make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind. Hit the subscribe and notification bell, and hit us up on Instagram at Rays Rewind Pod. We will see you guys next time on the Rays Rewind podcast. See ya.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with El Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.